Scratch stats. I've mentioned it in passing before, but I felt like today we should talk about Scratch stats and what it does and what it means and other questions similar to those. So what is Scratch stats? Well, it's a website that tells you stats about users on Scratch. Stuff like how many followers, loves, favorites, love to view ratio on projects, which is kind of weird because the love to view ratio on any project is not going to be good because most people who watch a project won't love it, especially those that get onto the Explore tab. And I don't mean they won't love it like they won't like it. I mean that they won't love it as in they won't perform the action of clicking the love button. Thankfully, though, they don't have a view to favorite ratio, because that would be even worse than the already really low view to love, or love to view. And you probably know of those people who are like, Scratch isn't about fame and stuff, but they almost never bring up Scratch stats, which is kind of weird because Scratch stats is basically just displaying fame in numerical form. And just like all things Scratch related, there's always just that one part of the menu that doesn't make any sense. But first, let's talk about the menu. When you go to a user's profile on Scratch stats, you'll see a bunch of information. The first box includes stuff about when they joined, the number of followers they have, stuff like that, as well as their location, which will display no location if you didn't set one on your Scratch account. Scratch stats also shows how many followers you have based on the whole world. So compared to everyone else in the world, here's how you rank in terms of followers. I'm somewhere around the 200,000 mark, which is, I don't know, how many people use Scratch? 200,000th place? That's not that bad, right? And then we get to the worst section of the entire thing, the one that I decided inspired this episode because it just makes zero sense. Of course, it's a Scratch themed menu. It's not going to make sense. But the section's called Activity in the last 12 months. It includes the number of projects you've shared, the number of projects you loved and favorited, the number of users you followed, the number of studios you've joined, and the number of studios you followed. And this is in the last 12 months, 1 year, if you don't like months, I guess. But the real problem with this is the number of how high the numbers go, because they only go up to 20. Yes. So most people probably love more than 20 projects in a whole year, so why not have it capped at 99 or something? Or there's so much room in this area, there shouldn't even be a cap. It should just be able to go on for infinity. So you can say that you've loved like 2,000 projects in the last 12 months. This data is inaccurate because I love more than 20 projects probably in like 1 month, let alone 12. So how come the limit is so low? And for those of you wondering, I've shared 20 plus projects, favorited 20 plus projects, loved 20 plus projects, followed 16 users, and joined 19 studios. So I've basically maxed out most of the numbers. And I haven't followed any studios because I've already said how following studios is kind of redundant. Next section is recently loved projects, which is useful because of the fact that the recent activity section on the official Scratch website is super short. So this is basically an extension, which I appreciate. And then here's the big one, total stats in all projects. Every view, every love, and every favorite you've ever gotten on your profile is stored in these numbers, which thankfully go above 20. So, are you ready to hear my numbers? 418 loves, 214 favorites, and 826 total views. Something that I wish would be displayed, as well as these numbers, is the amount of different people who've viewed one of your projects. So it could say like 826 views spread across 12 people, or 1,000 views spread across 100 people, or something like that. Because I like numbers, and more information is always fun. And then almost the last category is the most loved, favored, and viewed projects. Do you want to hear what they are? Well, I've already said in passing before what they are in previous episodes, but I doubt anyone will remember that. So, the most loved project on my profile is Billy Not Joe Saves Scratch. The most favorited project on my profile is Billy Not Joe Saves Scratch. And the most viewed project on my profile is episode 1, which really stinks for me because I'm sure people have watched that and then thought, wow, this is bad. I do not want to watch the other 100 something. But trust me, it gets better. Stick with me here. And then earlier I was talking about love to view ratio. And do you want to hear my highest love to view ratio on a project? Well, you might be thinking, of course, your highest love to view ratio is 100%, because that's as high as a ratio like this can go, right? Well, apparently not. My highest ratio of love to views on a project is 150% on Billy Not Joe versus Cataclysm Part 3. Wow. Apparently, you guys liked that episode so much that you made the love to view ratio mathematically impossible. Thanks for that. Well, it's not really mathematically impossible because Scratch only counts views if you click the play button, the green flag. So I'm guessing that someone probably loved the project without even watching it, which, thanks for that, I guess. I'm not sure how to feel about that, but it's a good thing, I'm sure. And then the final section is average stats received per day, week, and month, which are all painfully inaccurate. I definitely do not receive 55 views per month. That makes almost zero sense. Anyway, that was Scratch Stats. And while you're still here, what did you think about that 100th episode? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Please tell me. Because if no one liked it, then I probably won't bother doing that next time. Speaking of things no one likes, this has been Billy Netch's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. It is hot today, which is the perfect time to talk about the hottest topic on Scratch, which is, I guess, animations, probably. And out of all the things on Scratch that could be considered controversial, apparently animations is one of them. I'm sure you're just as surprised as I was. So anyway, the main argument being used against animations is that Scratch is a coding website, and animations are made just for attention and popularity, I guess, which is a pretty dumb argument because have you seen inside one of those animations before? Some of that stuff's pretty complicated. More complicated than some games, in fact. So why do people still say that animations are just for fame? Well, I guess some people take this website way too seriously, which is good for me because then I have something to report on. Wait a minute, am I a news? Is this technically a news channel? I mean, not really, right? Actually, no, I might be a news. I'm not sure though.
No, you're more like a snooze
Great,
channel.
Kennerbot, why are you showing up so often?
Just trying to establish myself as a main character.
You aren't a main character. You're a side character at best, and I intend on you staying that way.
I intend on not letting you continue your rant.
Fair enough. So, are you in a interrupty rude mood today, or are you in a respectful bystander mood kind of way?
Rude mood. I really just came to dunk that raccoon for taking my head off in the 100th episode party.
Taking your head off? How come I'm never here for the exciting stuff?
Because you're boring.
I'm not boring. You're boring.
I'm sure if you asked everyone would say I'm better than you. In fact, hey everyone watching, I'm totally better than him, right?
Hey, only I'm allowed to ask questions.
If I were watching, then I'm sure I'd much rather answer to a handsome charismatic robot than a little opinionated furball.
I'm gonna pretend like I didn't hear that. Anyway, I was talking about animations and controversy and stuff.
You should be talking about how after 100 episodes you still can't keep people from interrupting you. I've seen kindergarten play places with higher security than this thing.
Fine, if you want higher security, I'll show you a higher security.
Oh no, I don't have a way to get up. I'm like a turtle stuck on its back. Help, I can't
You know,
get up.
I'd say that I got my point across today, but I probably didn't, so this has been Billy Netch's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.
Hey, how you doing? What? I'm just trying to make conversation. Although you probably have never heard of that. It's safe to assume by now that you aren't very good at talking, so I'll lead. By talking about, oh, here's a good idea. How about instead of just talking about stuff, because that's really the squirrel's expertise, how about we instead do stuff? Like removing the weeds from the park, because that's a very heroic thing to do. And look at this, you don't even have to do any work. I've got it all covered. There we go, no more weeds. There will be no more weeds to suck the moisture from the trees that need to grow in order to maintain the parkiness of the park. See, if I was around more often, then you wouldn't have problems like park weeds. Instead, you'd have problems like some idiot setting the entire forest on fire. But that's a very rare scenario. In fact, that's never happened before. In fact, if you take a look around right now, you'll see that it's not on fire. There's just fire on it, which is obviously the preferable alternative. And I'm sure if you could talk, you would be saying, wow, I enjoy this fire. It's very warm and comforting. You know what, actually, why am I talking to you so much? I should be talking to the people watching. So, hi. Can you feel the warmth of this fire radiating through your computer screen? No? Well, that's a shame. So anyway, Jelly, now that I have heightened your experience for today, I will be departing. Farewell.
Hello, welcome to Billy Nacho's Rant, and as you probably know, yesterday Supernova thought it was a good idea to burn down the entire forest, so I thought it would be a good idea to set up a dog-proof fence. That way he can't interrupt, because everyone knows that if a fence is dog-proof, it means that dogs can't get through. Alright, well, it wasn't supposed to fall down that easily. On the topic of things that actually do work, which is going to be a type of art that I haven't really discussed much, called pixel art. Pixel art is basically art with pixels. Yep, it's that simple. Now, a lot of people think that pixel art is just for old video games and stuff, but it's actually not. There are lots of people on Scratch who do pixel art that looks amazing, and it's like an actual art, but with pixels. I would show you some examples, but I don't have time to ask people for permission. So you're just going to have to imagine an art that's made of pixels. Or if you've seen one before, just imagine that. Pixel art's most commonly an electronic form of art, where you do it on a computer, because obviously computers are all about pixels and stuff. Which reminds me, this fence is actually electrified, so I'm pretty sure that lightning is the opposite of fire, right? So let's just turn this on. I don't think this is working correctly. Yep, definitely not. Okay, so the fence didn't work. There must be something wrong with it. Oh, of course, silly me. I bought the squirrel-proof fence. You see, Scratch is all about funny and relatable things, and I'm sure nothing's more funny and relatable than accidentally buying a squirrel-proof fence when you meant to buy a dog-proof fence, right? Don't look at me like that. It's absolutely happened to at least one of you. Anyway, I was talking about pixel art. Yeah, it's cool. It looks nice. The end. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and be sure to specify the type of fence you want before picking out a fence. Hello, I'm here to give a bit of advice today. I've been on Scratch for about 2 years now, and I've realized something. If the website isn't cooperating, you should cooperate with the website. Don't know what I'm talking about? Well, if you've been on the Explore tab recently, you might know that some projects have lost their thumbnails. You know, the images that you click on to start up the project? Yeah, some of them have just been replaced with the default Scratch cat with a white background. Now, is this the next Doom Square? No, not really. Because, unlike the Doom Square, I've actually found a solution to this problem. The solution is File, Save to Computer, create a new project, load from computer, and boom, now it'll work. Now, of course, obviously, you will lose any comments, loves, and favorites on that project, but so this isn't really a good solution for the people who are already on the Explore tab, but if this happens to you and you're like me, and it takes a few days before anyone actually sees your projects, then this is a great solution. Instead of just being angry about Scratch's shenanigans, try to find a way to get Scratch to fix it for you, because the less work, the better, am I right? Which is really a new technique on the show. I mean, I've talked about bad stuff that actually may be good, I've talked about good stuff that actually may be bad, and now I've talked about stuff that fixes itself. Self-fixing Scratch projects. And people said this website's just for children. It can fix itself. That's pretty high tech. Or maybe it doesn't really fix itself because it fixes the problem by using a feature that it has. So it kind of fixes itself, but with a little bit of effort from the person who wants to fix it. Alright, and we still have a bit of time together, so what else? Any ideas? Oh yes, the background. Well, if you've seen the previous 2 episodes, then you know why it looks like that. And I'm sure I'll get it fixed up in no time. So just as a quick recap, if the thumbnail of your project isn't working, try saving and loading to your computer from the file drop down, and then if that doesn't work, I don't know, just wait. Sometimes Scratch fixes itself even more automatically without any user input. That's just how it works. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hello, welcome to Billy Nacho's Rant, and today I figured that since usually it's either me or a suggestion that decides the topic for today, I figured let's do something different. Jelly, all the power is in your hands today. You can decide whatever topic you want, and I'll do something with it. Me? Oh, that's very nice of you. Let's see, what is there to say about me? Well, if there's one thing about me that most people know, is that I dislike some things. Don't get me wrong, I like some things, but some other things, not the best relationship. However, one thing I do like is getting comments at random. I could just wake up one morning and then all of a sudden someone commented hi on my profile. That makes me feel good. Almost everything I dislike about Scratch has to do with Scratch itself, not necessarily the people on it. So if you're a people, congratulations. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, one thing I don't like about me is how little sense I make occasionally. And by occasionally, I mean frequently. And by frequently, I mean almost every day. I mean, geez, how many rants am I going to make on the Explore tab? Just do something original for once. Actually, no. It's important that I do make a bunch of rants on the Explore tab, because then it brings attention to the fact that the Explore tab is bad. So take that, me. Hold on there a second, me. I'm sure that people are getting tired of just constantly hearing about the Explore tab and other Scratch-related things. Then how come they're watching the show? Bet you didn't think of that, me. See, I don't even need someone to argue with. So if you're ever at a lack of people to argue with, try arguing with yourself. You'll probably win. And lose, but the winning outweighs the losing. Wait, did I just say something that doesn't make sense again? And Jelly, I'd debate with you, but I don't think it would be very fair, because, you don't really talk. Or maybe you do talk, and I just haven't been listening because I'm too busy complaining about whatever. Anyway, this has been Billy Not Just Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Don't worry, though, I'll have something more exciting for tomorrow. As you may have heard, Scratch has just added 2 new emojis. To read up on this yourself, you can go to the Scratch News section on the top right of the homepage, and then just click on the one that says New Emojis. Now, the first new emoji is a Black Lives Matter one, and you can type it by putting underscore BLM underscore, just like any other emoji. Something notable about this is that you can either type BLM in lowercase letters or in capital letters, but you can't mix and match. You have to type either all uppercase or all lowercase, which makes sense because it's an acronym, and I'm pretty sure the acronyms are all capital. But having it all lowercase also makes sense because some people might not think punctualizing emojis, because why would you? Punctualizing. Is that even a word? Now, the real notable thing is the second new emoji. Not saying that the first one isn't important, it is, but the second one has a more interesting backstory. The second new emoji is a pride flag, the one with the rainbow on it. And you can type that by putting underscore pride underscore. No capital option for that one. Now, the cool thing about this one is that it was actually a suggestion by a project that got onto the homepage under the What People Are Loving category. Now, projects get under the What People Are Loving category all the time, but I never thought that a project with a simple suggestion like that would be added so quickly. I mean, the emoji and the project asking for it came out like only a few days apart. It's pretty cool. I mean, Scratch makes all those big companies that take years to make emojis look like amateurs. But you see here, the real question is, how come there's not an option to change the green flag to a pride flag? I mean, wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, the green flag's pretty boring. I want more color. And if you think that the suggestion and addition of the pride flag were just a coincidence, then it pretty much confirms it in the community post. In the second paragraph of the post, it says, "We have also heard your overwhelming enthusiasm and support for a pride emoji on Scratch." So, if that's not directly referencing the suggestion project, then I don't know what is. Unrelated but notable thing is also that the Scratch Cat official account has only made 22 community posts. Feels like a lot more than that. And I hope that the Scratch team make more announcements and community posts, because then that gives me something to talk about. Anyways, I hope I spread the news of these 2 new emojis. Have fun with them. This has been Billy Not Just Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hello, welcome to Billy Not Just Rant, and today I'm going to be expressing my love for one feature on Scratch, which obviously, of course, is going to be the vector editor, because while Scratch is also an amazing coding platform, it's an equally as good art platform. There's just something so satisfying about drawing something in the Scratch vector editor. And with the reforming tool, you can basically do whatever you want, and it'll have smooth curves, and it'll look nice. So, no matter what your skill is at art, whatever you draw in the Scratch vector editor will, at the very least, look decent. However, in a previous episode, I talked about Scratch Vector versus Bitmap, and how I said that they each have their advantages. And I'm pretty sure one of the advantages that I said Bitmap has was that if you have art from another platform and you implement it into Scratch, then it'll be in Bitmap. I take that back. That's not an advantage. It's not an advantage because no matter what art you import into Scratch, it'll always be in Bitmap. If anything, that's a disadvantage. Sure, it's impossible to turn it to vector, if it would obviously be better, because vector always looks better. But enough talking about how bad bitmap is. Let's start talking about how good vector is. Of course, one thing vector has is lighting, or at least sort of synthetic lighting. It's not really lighting, there's no real light, but you can give the illusion of light with gradients, which works obviously a lot better in vector, because vector blends stuff. The gradients are more blendy. Blendy? I don't think that's a word. The word blendy reminds me of a analogy for the two. Vector is like a blender making a banana smoothie, whereas bitmap is like a washing machine full of rocks. Or maybe my arguments are just invalid because I'm bad at using bitmap, which I wouldn't say I'm bad, because I've had plenty of experience. I went my first half a year of Scratch not even knowing that vector existed, which I'm not sure how I didn't know that, because the default editor is vector. You have to switch it over to bitmap. So, yeah. If you like bitmap better, please tell me why. What are the reasons? Because really the only reason I can think about using bitmap over vector is if you like the aesthetic of the pixels and stuff. Or you like redrawing everything every frame. I don't think anyone likes that though. If you had a time machine and you went back in time to like the Disney animators when they were making those early Disney movies, and you asked them if they like redrawing every frame, they won't say, yes, this is very enjoyable. If there was a way to not do that, I'm sure they would. They don't do it because they like it, they do it because there's no other way. Whereas vector, there is another way. Just use vector and not bitmap. Another notable thing is that in vector, you can draw stuff bigger than the canvas, and it'll just go off canvas, but it'll still be there. In bitmap, if you go off canvas, the stuff just gets deleted, anything that isn't in the gray box. I don't even know why that happens. It's as if Scratch is just limiting bitmap for the sake of limiting bitmap, just to make vector seem better. Of course, obviously, in my early days of Scratch, I was a bitmap person, because that's all I knew. But as soon as I left vector, I never looked behind, because vector's just better, which I've said a few times, maybe a little. But really, it's hard to come up with reasons why vector is better than bitmap when it's just better. That's all there is to it. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Unless you're a bitmap person, in which case you probably didn't enjoy. Nothing is perfect, especially not Scratch. Problems arise, problems de-rise, problems happen. And of course, the best way to prevent a problem is to figure out what's causing the problem, which, with problems with Scratch, it's probably Scratch that's causing the problem. And I know people don't like these problems, because some of my most popular projects are the ones where I discuss how to fix glitches in Scratch. Things that are out of your control that just happen. Because why not? So I thought today I'd go over the most biggest, I guess, glitches and problems with Scratch that I've fixed, so that you can fix them too, if that happens. Let's start with the most recent one, which is the thumbnail not showing up. Instead, it would just show a picture of Scratch Cat with the default white background. And no one wants that. That's ugly. You don't want to see that. Plus, it's just white, and no one wants to see just plain white with no color. And as I said whenever I actually first talked about this won't work if your project is already popular. Like, you should fix this as soon as possible before it gets a lot of likes and favorites, because you're gonna lose them if you do this strategy, but it'll fix the thumbnail, and that's all I care about. So that is the most urgent and recent problem that has arisen, mass problem that's happened to multiple people on Scratch. And so I just thought that I'd recap on what to do if that happens, because I know people probably don't go back and watch the older stuff, because why would you? Not even I go back and watch the older stuff. I just like to forget it ever happened. Because I've seen this a lot in my experiences with Scratch and stuff. Because when you share a project, and you know the quality of the project because you've played it through before, and then a few days or months later, you look back and say, yep, I could have totally done that a lot better. Because you learn. You don't even know that you're learning, but you are learning. This applies more to games than animations, because there's a whole lot more variety with games than animations. And by variety, I mean technical variety. There's a whole lot of different ways to make the same game, but there's not as much different ways to make the same animation, if you understand that. An example of this is generic platformers. You look inside a generic platformer, you see all the code and stuff, and it's pretty complicated for something that people generally don't really like. unless they do like it. The vast majority of people don't like the generic platformers because they're boring to play, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have effort put into them. Everything on Scratch has effort put into it. Even the worst, least amusing quality stuff. Because everything on Scratch has to be built from scratch. That's why it's called Scratch. Well, that's not really why it's called Scratch. There's another reason too. Something to do with music and remixing, but remixing takes away the scratch part. Because if you're remixing something, then you have something already there. It's not from scratch. You're just improving or changing something else. Did I get off topic or what? And I guess before I start talking about something else entirely, let's just end it off here. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed. Hello, welcome to Billy Nacho's Rant, and today I've made a decision. From today until Friday, I'll be making a new episode every day, talking about video games. This week is going to be Game Week, and I figured let's start off Game Week with probably my most opinion-y opinion, which is what I personally think is the biggest problem with Minecraft. I, as well as most people who have played it, like Minecraft. It's a fun game. One particular thing that makes it fun is that every year there's a new update, which is revealed at a convention, which is big and exciting. And most, if not every new update adds more blocks, because Minecraft is about blocks. And sometimes it'll add like new areas or mechanics and other game-related stuff. But of all those things, the one that I'm most excited about every update is the new animals or creatures. Because when I play video games, I don't like to be alone. I like to have things to enjoy, like little bunnies, or things to fight, like zombies or something. And yes, Minecraft does have little bunnies and zombies, but recently, the things that they've been adding are stuff like polar bears, axolotls, panda bears, real life animals being added to Minecraft. Bees. That was an important one. The bees were apparently so good that they deserved an entire update. And do you want to know what all those animals have in common? You probably guessed by now, but they're all either endangered or threatened species in real life. So Minecraft adds them to the game to add awareness, which may not seem like a problem. It's actually a good thing, and it is really a good thing. But from a gameplay perspective, all these animals are almost worthless, because the main uses of animals or creatures in Minecraft is either they help you, which, to be fair, the axolotl does help you, or you kill them and they give you resources like leather or food. And obviously, since these animals are endangered in real life, they can't be encouraging killing them, so they don't drop any resources. And since some of these animals are dangerous in real life, they can't encourage getting near them in Minecraft, so they don't serve any purpose to the player. What's the point? But you're probably saying that earlier I said they also add stuff like zombies, stuff that doesn't exist in real life, so they can do whatever they want with it. Well, here's the problem. They haven't added any fictional or fantasy, mythological monsters or creatures in like 2 or 3 years. It's been a long time. However, luckily, this holiday season, so like somewhere in December, they're going to be releasing another update, which adds this thing called the Warden, who's like this big, scary darkness beast that lives at the bottom of the deepest caves, which is really cool because obviously wardens don't exist in real life. And if they did, you'd probably be encouraged to not associate with them because they're scary. And if Minecraft is going to continue to add real life animals to the game, then why not squirrels or raccoons? No reason. I'm just saying, I think they're pretty cool. Anyway, that concludes the first day of Game Week. Come back tomorrow when I'll be discussing another game-related thing. That's not the proper way to end off one of these. This has been Billy Nacho's Rant, and I hope you enjoyed.